Good evening, everybody. I'd like to open the Town of Ayer Affordable Housing Trust meeting for Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. This meeting / hearing of the Ayer Affordable Housing Trust will be held in person at the location provided on this notice. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation via Zoom is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in a specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. This meeting will be live on Zoom. The public may access the proceedings by joining Zoom, meeting ID number 818-0509-7403, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Alicia Hersey at ahersey@air.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 142 prior to the meeting. First item would be approval of the agenda. Any changes or amendments?
I mean, we approve the agenda.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Do we have any members on? I don't know. Okay. Okay. We're all. Who was on?
Got PM, what else?
Oh.
I got,
we can just-
oh. I'm pregnant.
Oh, okay. All right, so our first item up, or next item up, is public information session to review the funding request. Devon's Trust Tenants Association and Shockett Associates have requested funding from the Air Affordable Housing Trust of $240,000 in support of the purchase of Devon's Crest Village Apartments as a low to moderate income housing project from Brady Sullivan, the current owner.
Oh,
Do you want presentation? Yes.
Oh, you're doing it.
He's got presentation now.
but you want the.
We can just do ours very quickly. I forgot to tell you about that.
Sorry.
The agenda. These should be. Okay, so this is just, I think most people in this room have already heard what the outline of this project is. So next slide. Just do the arrow. Okay, so it's 114 housing units in Devon's Crest, and it'll all be low to moderate income. 35 units will be 60% AMI. That's area median income. And the other 79 will be 80% AMI. And I think everybody is well aware of that. And then we're looking for the 99-year deed restriction. Next slide. And this is just the funding. Now, I think that the presentation that Rick has put together for the project will give you a lot more detail on this. So why don't we move to the next presentation and let. It's the big one.
Oh.
Not that one.
Right, it's that afterwards.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That one.
Alicia, you,
No. That's got all the on the side, yes, it is.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, no problem.
Alicia, you stole all of my thunder. You got right to the chase, something that I'm not exactly known for, right? I bury the lead and sometimes forget to ask for the order. So I'm going to start with asking for the order.
Okay.
And then I can do some more deep background. I think that everyone is sort of pretty familiar. You've been before you a few times. You guys have been fantastic in listening to us and hearing us and understanding and supporting. And I know I speak for my friends, Devon's Crest Tenants Association. We're very, very grateful for the time and for the interest. We, as part of our project, we're seeking a total of $570,000 from the town of Ayer. And we had a bunch of conversations with you all, as well as the community preservation Act Committee. You know, I've not been certain as to what that breakdown would look like. It's great to hear that you're thinking 240,000. Every contribution will be gratefully accepted, and will go to very good use. The money going to, at the margin,
I think that's.
buy down affordability for some number of units, make them 60% units instead of 80% units. So you all know the history. You know, for decades, Devon's Crest neighborhood has been a great neighborhood, vibrant neighborhood, a neighborhood where folks could afford to live. In recent years, the acquisition by a value add developer and market forces. You like that euphemism?
I'm a marketer. Like it does.
Market forces have put Devon's Crest homes at risk. I mean, rents are legitimately, market rents are more than double what the original tenants are continuing to pay in their unrenovated. It's real. And it's, you know, as I've done my market research and looked at other comparables, it's, you know, I think, and Mr. Brady tells me that, you know, he's not raising the rents on new tenants when their leases come up. And he keeps telling me he could. And I don't think he's lying from what I'm seeing. Devon's Crest Tenants Association was formed to help figure out a way to keep the neighborhood affordable for the long term. Community came together, 2 slides down. Please, the community came together, led by these good folks to mobilize, next one. Mobilize citizenry, our elected officials across the government. As you know, State Senator Eldridge was able to get a $250,000 earmark, which was pretty significant. Cena was very helpful. EOHLC, from the very top, has taken a deeper interest in this property and these folks, really, than I've ever seen in my 30-some-odd year career in this business. I've never seen anything like it. And it was Secretary Augustus himself that got Brady to agree to actually sell the property. I had been talking to him for over a year and not getting traction. So Shockit, my company, we won a RFP to work with the tenants to find a way to preserve the housing, which has been a formidable challenge. We had a few sort of templates for how we were going to capitalize and structure the transaction. And for various and sundry reasons, they became impossible. So as we sit here today, as Alicia said, we're structuring it as a private equity deal. So we're bringing private capital, the order of $15 million, a conventional mortgage on the order of $14 million, and $10.5 million of state gap funding to enable, you know, make it attractive to an investor to put their money in. The investor we're talking to now is through a conduit, a fund is JP Morgan, who's willing to take a below market return on their $15 million, largely because they will get CRA credit. They're desperate for CRA credit in this market.
What's that? It's a
CRA, Community Redevelopment Act.
Okay.
So banks, anytime banks want to open branches and do business anywhere, there's a little good doobie, bad doobie checklist, you know, and so they need to be investing in the community.
Is there a tax advantage for them as well?
No, just if there's any tax advantage, just typical real estate.
Yeah.
So you get depreciation, but you lose it all on when you sell and recapture. So it is what it is. The goal always was for the residents to own the property, and that's where we started. But because of these technical factors, it just couldn't happen. So rather than giving up, and we've all hung in there, rather than giving up, we came up with this alternative structure to solve the 2 things that were most important. First, preserving the units and making sure these folks continue to live there and the generations after can continue to have affordable housing. Second, tenant ownership. So tenant, that, the preservation, protection is being accomplished, the day we close, and tenant ownership will be accomplished through an option run to an option for the tenants to purchase at the end of 10 years from the initial investment. So that's how that's our sort of very rigging to accomplish our dual objectives. Again, the project is entirely funded by state and private entities. I think the state sees this as a model, preserving naturally occurring affordable housing through public-private partnerships. So I think it's another reason why they're so interested in seeing this one succeed. But we're asking for additional funding above and beyond those sources to help make it even more affordable for residents. Also to help secure state funding, because as I've said at other meetings, the state is always looking for a financial commitment from the municipality, especially when they're writing a $10.5 million check. As I've said many times, we always try to make it just be a nice letter. We support this. But eventually they say, yeah, so put your money where your mouth is. So that's the world we live in. So as I said, we're seeking a total of $570,000 split between the two committees. We're also working on the side the real estate tax agreement. See if there's some way to give us some sort of tax relief. We've not underwritten it. We're not counting on it, but we're having conversations. As I said, to unlock state funds, the state strongly suggests the municipality make a significant financial commitment to the project. And as I said, next slide, please. Sorry. Be doing this myself. Town funding will allow for additional deeper affordability and also send a strong signal of the town's commitment to supporting low-income residents. Next slide, please. Okay, so what are the benefits for the town if this project succeeds? First is affordability protection for all 114 families, all 114 units. I know that 80% of area median income, given that we draw from the Boston SMSA, is not a small amount of money. But I will tell you that of the quote unquote new tenants, a goodly number of them have incomes below 80% of AMI. And 12 of them, believe it or not, are below 60%. So it's the best deal in the marketplace, even at 2,200 and 2,435, which is what Brady's currently getting. Preservation of the cultural and economic diversity has made Ayer unique compared to neighboring towns, and many of us who've lived in Greater Boston understand that. And the ability for multiple generations of families to reside together in Ayer. The thing that is always most compelling for me, and God bless our friends at DCTA, is while they are working really hard to protect themselves, they absolutely understand that everything they're doing will protect the next generations of folks who otherwise would not have the opportunity to affordable housing in town. Pride that Ayer's been able to create a template for preserving naturally affordable occurring affordable housing communities. So we all will get to speak on panels at ELC after we're successful, and it will be the case study. Which I always think is really cool. And I think we're doing important work. And I think it matters. And that always means something to me. All 114 units will be completely renovated. We're going to create 6 handicapped accessible units as part of that. And all will count toward Ayer's subsidized housing inventory. That's 114 units in the numerator with nothing new in the denominator without putting a stick in the ground. So while I know you all love the idea of creating new affordable housing, at least now it'll get you closer to be able to dictate to the developers where it goes, as opposed to being have it, you know, stuck in your pristine meadows and your beautiful open space. So it gives you the discretion as to how many units and where you want to put them. So I think that's really important. I think I've told folks before, we bought a 288 unit project in Franklin, Mass. that was not on the rolls. And same thing, we got it put on the rolls, and I think it took them over their 10%. So it's you know, we don't really think about that, but I think that's really important. Critically, how will the rents be kept affordable? So to me, next slide, sorry.
I know, that's okay, no problem.
The most important part are the 35 below 60% units, all of which will get MRVPs, which are the equivalent of Section 8, paid for by the state and administered through a local housing authority. And we're talking to the state about who that will be. I'm not sure whether the Ayer Housing Authority would like to do that. I know there are regional housing authorities, so we are in early stages drafting an RDP contract, and I've asked them to tell me who they think the administrator is going to be, and they had said, well, Ayer would be sort of the logical choice. And she asked me, well, do they want it? And I'm like, I don't know, it's up to them. So we love to accommodate whatever's going to be best for you all, but as with Section 8, what the MRVPs do, it allows folks to pay 30% of their income, whatever that is, for rent and utilities. And what we found, surveying the residents, trying to collect as much income data as possible, so that we could figure out what the impact would be on folks. And lots of people are going to get rent decreases even from where they are now. Some people will get increases, but it'll be a far cry better than 2,200 a month plus utilities. And that's just a handful. We have found, and I don't remember, I should have written down the exact numbers, but of the 35, we've got about 42 or 43 families that are below 60%. 32 of those are living in unrenovated units. The other 3 unrenovated units are down or vacant and sitting unrenovated for us to renovate. Something like 10 or 12 out of those 32 make around 30% of income. And then there's another tranche between 30 and 50, and then a handful between 50 and 60, but it's skewed to extremely low income, which is the beauty of Section 8 and MRVPs, right? It's the only way that I've ever seen in my affordable housing career to be able to take care of folks at extremely low incomes. But, you know, people say, well, just build more, build more, build more. If you make $1,000 a month, and with Section 8, you pay $300 a month, I don't care how many units you build, supply is not going to grow so much that Mrs. McGillicuddy on her Social Security will be able to pay $300 a month. So, and the MRVPs will be project-based, which means not mobile, right? Denise wins the lottery and moves to Cancun. Her voucher doesn't go with it. It stays with the property forever. Forever is 15-year contract. And I've never seen one not renewed. So everybody is betting, including the investor, that those contracts will be renewed forever. So we are protecting 35 families at potentially the lowest possible income, keeping them in their homes, renovating their units, giving them beautiful new units, and hopefully letting them be very, very happy for the long term. As the family's income changes, the rent changes. So if someone falls on some sort of hard times, loses a job, has other financial difficulties, go in, we recertify them, and their income fell from 2,000 a month to 1,000 a month, you know, their rent, including utilities, gets cut in half. So it's a beautiful thing. And even the families who will see rents increase, as difficult as that will be for some folks, the silver lining, if there is one, is that they've always got their protection if their circumstances change. I've been in situations where people are making so much money in a Section 8 unit, they don't get any subsidy. They're like, screw it, I don't need the subsidy, and they stop with the subsidy, and then they lose their job, and it's like, wow, wish I had that voucher. So the deep subsidy will allow these low, very low, and extremely low income households to remain at or move into Devon's Crest. That's nice. Just for the numbers, so the rest of the 79 will be limited to 80% of area median income, which again, a non-trivial number for a family of four, certainly. But to the extent that rent growth outpaces changes in income, it'll provide a safety net for people because their rents will always be capped at 30% of 80% of AMI, including utilities. So they do have protection in, in 10 or 15 years, who knows where that 80% rent will be relative to the next available apartment in the marketplace. The affordability restrictions will be enforced in perpetuity, 99 years. That's what we're expecting. I've sent drafts of what we think the use agreement will look like. That's what we're used to seeing, and that's what certainly we're going to be, lobbying for on our side. And state, generally the developer, the owner, is lobbying for a shorter period, so I don't think the state will have any problem with 90 years. So why do we need the money? Why do we want the money? How can it help? So the goal is to take 100% of what we get from you folks and use it to buy down some of the 80% units to 60% units. So the rents on 2-bedroom units would be reduced from 2,200 to 1,770. And for 3-bedroom units from 2,435 to 1998. So, non-trivial reductions, really broadening and deepening affordability. But we have to pay for them because the investor is expecting to collect is 79, 80% units, 2,200 and 2,435. So we need your money to make up that difference, right? To subsidize the difference between 2,200 and 1,770, right? So for a 2-bedroom, it's 430 a month. And to estimate the cost to convert a 2-bedroom 80 to a 2-bedroom 60, we took the monthly rent times 12 times 30, which is about as close to a perpetuity as we can get. Is it exact? I don't know. We're going to run tighter models, but it based on those numbers, it looks like sinking fund. So $154,800 in the bank today would allow us to commit to taking a 80% unit, 200, and renting it for 1,770.
That's just about just shy of 4 units.
Yes. So it's just shy of 4. Either way, and I struggled. I intuitively I can't figure out why the 3-bedroom is only 3,000 more.
Yeah.
But it's right, and I think it's because of utility allowances, which is a sort of contrived number. But I had sleepless nights on that. But that's what it looks like.
Has this number changed from the last time we spoke with you?
Yes.
Okay, that's what
Yes. It's been moving around. It's been, I gotta tell you, I've been just chasing it And I think, I think I've convinced myself and everybody else that these are the right numbers. So yes, it's 3 or 4 units. Not, and wherever the numbers were, I was always of the belief that 3 or 4 units was gonna be the number.
Mhm.
One way or another, it just made intuitive sense to me. So that's what the money will go to, is to take 3 or 4 units and make them accessible to folks at 60% of AMI rather than 80% of AMI. Slide, please. So we're so grateful for your time and support. You guys have really been amazing, but I know the tenants are so appreciative. The tenants have been amazing. I'm just so impressed with the way that they mobilize, how hard they've all worked. And it's, you know, my mission along with theirs to make sure that we can get through and get the deal done and preserve the housing for the long term. Again, the benefits again, which I walked through, I won't go through them again because I'm already over my time, which I know that. But I'm doing the best I can. But thank you. And now, I don't know. I'll go back and sit down and do what I'm told.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
All right, so questions from the.
Sounds like, I guess, it sounds like previously you said that in order to get the $10.5 million from the state, it required the town own up to put something in the pot. It seems like they've already done that. So, I mean, I think the 570, like, it's just to buy down more units.
It's just about exactly right. Exactly right. So 2 things. It's not, it's not sort of in the basic mix when I told you the sources and uses, right? It's not in there. It's incremental to buy down the units. The state's given us a letter. The state has not explicitly said it's contingent upon getting town support. But I know that the town support with a financial commitment is on every deal I've ever done. It's been very important and we've needed to get it. So it's, financially, it helps buy down units, but just to ensure the state's involvement, it's helpful. If you ask me what would the state do if we didn't get any money from the town, I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know.
They pushed it from the very beginning. They pushed that concept of.
Except for the fact that the letter is stating that they or in the letters.
Yes. And yeah, there's nothing in there about it being contingent upon,
Right.
but I think it's a sort of implicit understanding about how things work.
Right.
I just want to point out that this investment is going toward units that will be entirely renovated. That this is quality inventory. So it's not just that we have that guarantee for 99 years. We also have a high quality inventory that's being supported here. And I think that makes it's an important difference.
Just to clarify, the 570, all of that would go towards buying down. And that's where the 4 units come in.
Yes, sir.
So how much do you get per unit?
It's 150.
Okay, that's
What was.
yeah, I just want to make sure that was.
So,
I was understanding.
so the 150,
Sorry.
so what you show would be the yearly interest on that 150. Wouldn't the yearly interest on that 150 cover much of the?
Great question. So I'm sort of implicitly assuming that, so the that spread is going to change every year.
Mhm.
And the extent that everything goes 3%, I'm implicitly assuming that the spread goes up 3% every year, and that's paid for by 3% earnings on the corpus.
Okay,
Is that exact? Absolutely not.
yeah.
It's just kind of back of the envelope. Let's get to a number that we think makes sense.
Mhm.
If
Because you were at a number at 75,000 beforehand, and so I'm just
I think we screwed up how you calculate utility allowances. And
Oh,
that really
okay.
is what it was. I think it was user error and a whole bunch of us just struggling through. I would also tell you that, if it's, 3.5 units and we're $40,000 short on that last unit, we would find a way to not have that money sit forever doing nothing. We would find a way to get that fund.
Don't you think 3% is a little bit low on investment?
I don't know. It's just sort of typically what we use, right? If I stuck it in a money market account today, I could probably get 4.
Mhm.
But if I stuck it in a money market account 7 or 8 years ago, I'd be getting 0.1.
Right.
And look, hopefully, the income outpaces the change in spread, and it
Mhm.
is that rounding gets paid for through interest.
Mhm.
And I've got to, when we start to actually do it, we will run more detail, down to the penny models, which will be wrong
Mhm.
because we're making assumptions. But, again, I think that to think in terms of 3 to 4 units is really, the best way to look at it.
So how do we ensure that it is indeed, if we give you 570,000, whatever, we have 240,000. How do we ensure that that money isn't just going to go to the private investors? We've got to increase their profit.
Great question. And I don't know exactly how it's going to be papered, and we've been talking about that. I can tell you with certainty that if you give it to us, however it's papered, there is no way that it will be used for anything other than the intended use. It will be papered. We get that you giving us any money will be contingent upon you're having belts and suspenders that we and the investors can't run off with a $570,000.
It makes me nervous when your private partner is like an investment bank. You know what I mean?
100%. And the investor understands
And they're
that.
exclusive of us.
The investor is thinking about it as being separate from the rest of the deal and sitting in a sinking fund somewhere. It'll be, I envision it being an escrow to be controlled jointly by, you and us. Again, I don't know exactly how it's going to be papered. We've been thinking about it, we've been talking about it, but clearly any of this is contingent upon it being papered for 100% satisfaction and your sole discretion. We get it. This is
We don't-
your money.
We don't have to worry about how they spend it. We just have to require that the units that we buy
I
down.
know the contingency.
Yeah.
Yes, for the 99 years
It's,
at 60%. Then if they screw it up, it's on their fault, problem, because it's in the deed rider. So the deed rider will say what the units are at.
Right, but true, but you still have to have some place in our vote somehow.
Yeah, in the motion.
We have a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
You have someone who wishes.
Yeah, actually, no, hold on. I just, yeah, no, but public questions not yet. We'll just move forward, but I see your hand, yep. Any other questions from the committee?
I have a technical question. The utilities expense will be rolled into the rent for the people in Devon's Crest, is that your understanding? The rent covers utilities?
So the MRVP.
Mhm.
The MRVP, a household with an MRVP pays 30% of their income for rent plus utilities. Rent and utilities inclusive. So I've been doing some math in my head. So you make 70,000 a year, 30% of your income is $1,750 a month. If the utility allowance is 500, you'll pay me $1,250, and then you'll write a check to the gas company, the electric company, water and sewer for 500. So your total housing cost is that. That's for the voting. For the 80% units, there's a max 30 of 80 published. It's like, I forget to do the math, it's like 2,900 for a 2-bedroom and 3,100 for a 3-bedroom. And all I can charge a tenant for rent who's paying their own utilities is that $2,800 number minus the 500. That's the max I can charge. So that's where it's, you know, that's where it's factored in. I'm more critical for the voucher tenants because it's, you know, right now they're paying 900 or 1,000, and then they're writing various and sundry checks to the utility companies for 400 or 500.
And I assume that each unit has an individual furnace or boiler? It's not centralized, okay, gotcha. Yep.
So,
Yeah, I have a couple of deed restriction questions. Just want to make sure I have it clear in my head. So all 114 units will have deed restrictions on them to remain affordable. If we buy down 4 additional units, would the then 39 be deed restricted at 60%? And the remaining would be deed restricted at 80%. And so even if the vouchers fall through in 15 years, those 39 units remain deed restricted. Correct?
Yes, but those extra 4 units will be, they're not going to be MRPP units. They're going to be what we call self-pay 30 of 60. So whether the vouchers go away or not,
We call,
we'll still collect the full 80% rent because we're getting 30 of 60 from the tenant.
so we call them a subsidized or a not subsidized unit. So so they can only charge the rent of a 60% unit. Whether it's subsidized, if it has a voucher, it has a subsidy with it. If it doesn't have a voucher, it doesn't have a subsidy with it. So the person has to pay the 60% rent, just as they would in the 80% unit, but it's just at a 60% calculation.
And-
Okay.
Okay.
And then those additional units, they would be at that to 30, right, where the other ones are.
I think that's what I've been having conversations with the investor about what that. And I think it's probably the best way is for you to, in the motion or whatever you're going to draft, tell us what you would like it to look like. And I will take it back because they're my boss.
Well, whenever we do deed restrictions with anyone, and we've done deed restrictions for Habitat, you know, and other projects, the motion would be that it would be an approved deed restriction from the town. EOLs,
DHCD.
Sorry. Yeah.
OHL.
And the project association, but so any motion would have a deed restriction that says that it will be agreed upon in the future. So it's something that we negotiate, we send it to our lawyers, they send it to EOHLC's lawyers and all that sort of stuff, and we work it out. And we've done it multiple times before this. So, but if we can't work it out, and my recommendation would be that the 80% units be for the 99 years and the 60% units would be for the 99 years. So the investor needs to understand that that's the 99 years for the 80 and the 60. And whether they have a voucher or not. So if the vouchers disappear, we still have 60% and we still have 80% units. So the affordability doesn't disappear.
And that's 100% the expectation. The investor has bought into
Yes.
79 units at 80% for 99 years, regardless of whether they're vouchers. 35 units at 60%
Mhm.
for 99 years, regardless of whether they're vouchers. The issue will be on the 4,
Mhm.
right? whether they will be willing to accept a 99-year use restriction if the money's gonna run out in 30 years.
Yeah, that's.
But
And
if the
so-
money runs out, they would still be, they would go back to 80%
Yeah,
units. They would still be covered under
Yeah,
the
yeah,
restriction.
And the other question that we brought up at another meeting was and condo associations and things like that, there is usually a sinking fund for renovations and long-term maintenance and that sort of thing. And we haven't talked about that. And we haven't talked about the deed restriction, but the deed restriction, if we can count even 30 years of a deed restriction, shows that you're going to get quite a bit out of it for our portion that we put into it, okay? When we do our rental assistance program, we give people $500 a month. And that turns out to be $6,000 a year per unit to subsidize their unit. So if you just use that formula, and we do 12 units, so that's 72,000 right there per year we spend on subsidizing units at $500 a month. So when you look at that, then the money really does work on that.
It comes in at under,
Yeah,
I was noticing that.
yeah. So
I'm curious then on here. That's still one of the contingencies then.
what's that?
The affordability restriction is for 99 years, those additional units. If
Well, no, the affordability restriction is for 99 years, not just for the additional units, but all the project. Just as the deed restrictions for the whole project.
Right.
Just may not be still at 60, it might end up being back. at 80.
Yeah, okay.
I don't think you're gonna write all that.
And
Wait till you see the legal doc, wait till you see that stops, right?
Yeah.
Learning about emotion right now.
yeah, and remember, the motion is really open-ended because there is this negotiation that happens with the state.
Yeah.
And it has to happen, but we have done it before and it's not. And so, yes, committing the money, almost the same as I'm sure when you got the commitment from the state, there's all sorts of, you do this, this, and this. And so that would be the same kind of motion that we would be passing, you know, here's all the hurdles you have to cross. So that's all.
Any other questions from the trust?
Oh, good, thank you.
Eric, did you have a question?
Oh, I want to make a statement that
Yeah,
So if you're all here, you come on in.
sorry, I don't want to be on the Zoom thing. I don't mind my voice, but, so.
Yeah, they're not gonna be able to hear you though.
What's that?
No, for the,
They're gonna be able to
Okay,
just
so
talk really loud.
DCTA's contract with Shopit provides for transparency of the finances and a review and audit process, correct, Rick? So, and DCTA in the method to purchase the neighborhood, if you will, at the end of, is it 10 years? Requires a certain mix of 60%, blah, 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 some kind of fancy formula that our consultants know what it is. Anyways, this will help make it possible for the tenants to own this forever, so not just to be 60-80, but for tenant control, you know, with an appropriately professional property manager, blah, blah, blah. So, it's not just making that possible. So it's not just getting the units down to 60%, which is a laudable goal. I love it. It helps us get to that process of the democratic control by tenants. Then the last thing I'll say is that because to be able to buy it within 10 years, to have this fancy mix that the consultants say we need to have for the financing, whatever tax credit, something or other incentive. We have an incentive to make sure that Rick behaves and spends the money in the way that you all say it has to be spent. So we'll be having eyeballs on that. Thank you. That's it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time.
Any questions? You've been living this for years.
we don't have to explain it.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
We ready for a motion?
Ready? Yeah.
Like me to make, can I make the motion? You mind?
It's
Right there.
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
okay.
I would just, because I changed it up there, the amount of units, just to be wondering.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we should have a discussion about that.
Yes, let's talk about
I,
So what'd you
it. So the
change?
first part of it is the number of units to be moved from the 80% AMI category to 60% AMI. And there's a total, but there's some ambiguity, 3 or 4, so we have to, how do we do
No,
that?
so that we
our
also,
funding is only, our funding proposal for tonight is 170,000, which would only cover 1 unit.
Oh,
So it's suggesting that instead of saying the number of units,
Just say
we
the number,
say
the
moving
amount.
units from 80 to 50.
I think that a minimum, I mean, we had originally gone 1 year 75. And everybody was talking about, right now, we only have available 170. In our reserve fund. And so we were talking about the possibility of requiring 2 units be moved. But you're saying that at this point, the potential of spending 570 that is not going to get us the 6 units. It's going to be closer to 4.
I think for all it's said and done.
Yeah,
And I think that motion was written with,
yeah.
when we thought it was still 75,000 instead of the 150.
But they still have to get through town meeting vote, and I think that we want to be clear that 1 or 2 units be moved, not just a vague number.
And that's fine too.
and which number? So this says, currently it says move that the Air Affordable Housing Trust will authorize 170,000. Would we adjust that number then for this motion? No,
Yeah,
no, we don't have.
because the rest.
And so I should say for an additional 2 units? Like put that specific.
They,
1 to
1 to 2, additional 1 to 2 units. And when it says for a total of
I would put 36 to 37.
36 to 37 units in the 60% AMI designation. And I'll proceed. I'd like to move that the Air Affordable Housing Trust vote to authorize $170,000 from the Air Affordable Housing Trust to the Devon Crest project, subject to the following contingencies. An additional 1 to 2 units of the project being moved from the 80% AMI category to the 60% AMI category for a total of 36 to 37 units in the 60% AMI designation. 2, the affordability restriction is for 99 years. 3, the deed restriction and housing monitoring and marketing plan must be approved by the Air Affordable Housing Trust and the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities. 4, the project must be approved for the State Sustainable Housing Inventory List as an AIR approved project. And finally, number 5, the project receives, is 35 still the correct number, 35 MRVP or equivalent housing vouchers from the state of Massachusetts.
Those acronyms need to be spelled out.
I did most of them.
Well, I know you did it, but.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, that's fine. Yeah.
I didn't hear your
Not as,
question.
You spell out, we have all these acronyms.
not as long as it's in the record somewhere. It just needs to be spelled out the first time. I second that.
Any further discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
aye.
Chair says aye.
Congratulations.
Nicely done.
Thank you so very much.
I'll take a motion.
Move to adjourn.
When is our
Yes, ma'am.